Survival Minecraft is the most popular way to play, and with so many unknown features and updates that make the game easier and more enjoyable, learn 20 Survival Minecraft tips and tricks in this video. So we want to make ourselves a small cow farm, and we have some fences as well as a fence gate to make this farm out of. Now there are multiple ways to make an entrance to this. We could always have there just be a fence gate like the game sort of intends, or we could have a carpet to jump over here. But did you know that there's an even better way to make this fence for our animals? That's right, and all you have to do is make it out of trapdoors. So if you put some trapdoors on every single side of where you want your fence to be, just like this, and then simply flip them up, make sure they're facing inward, not outwards. Then once the cows are inside of those trapdoors, they cannot get out. Now of course they're not getting out right now, but let's say if we were going to punch them, so they're going to try and run away as fast as possible, you can see those cows just will not navigate over the trapdoor. That actually means we can hold our wheat, go into this trapdoor fence, and this cow will jump right over the trapdoors here, get stuck, and cannot go in again. So your entire fenced area is a one-way gate to get in your cows. You may have had the issue before when you're dealing with an undead mob, you by accidentally hurt it, so you get yourself some health potions to try and heal this undead mob, but instead of healing it, it actually kills them. And this applies to all undead mobs, not just villagers. The fact that harming heals the undead mobs, but healing harms the undead mobs, so it sort of makes sense if you think about it. They're undead after all, which would mean that the deader they become, the more alive they are. I'm not sure about the logic entirely, but it is quite interesting considering the fact if you want to heal something that is undead, you need to harm it, and if you want to harm something that is undead, you have to heal it. So next time you're trying to hurt an undead mob or heal an undead mob, let's say with tipped arrows or with a splash potion, remember that the roles are reversed if the mob is undead, so this would even count for things like the wither skeleton or the wither. Finding a water source is often harder than you would think, but at least once you've found the water source, you know that it's there, right? Well, not maybe exactly right. You noticed right here I just suddenly got water inside of my inventory, nothing really special going on, so how exactly am I getting this? We have here some stone stairs that are waterlogged. This is a really great tip to decorate your bases, mountainsides, or really any area you want to have a hidden water source. But I definitely love this because all you have to do is place down some stairs in a row like this, simply waterlog some of them to make an infinite water source already, then just cover up the entire thing in stone, and there's really no way of telling that it's there, and if you're just sort of moving around your mouse with the water bucket, you'll suddenly be picking up that water really strangely. And just like this hidden water source, YouTube sometimes will fully hide my latest videos from you, but if you turn on notifications and subscribe if you haven't already, then you'll never miss my new uploads in the future, and then you can always find my new Minecraft tips, tricks, guides, tutorials, and more. The Wither has a special ability in Minecraft in the fact that it's able to get you the Wither Rose, but getting a lot of these without a Wither Rose farm can be difficult, except for if you use this trick. If you can get a fisherman villager that trades you mass amounts of buckets of fish, this could be tropical or salmon or cod, even puffer, it doesn't actually matter, then you want to make yourself a giant aquarium right in front of where the Wither is. Then once you're done placing them all down, summon in the Wither, stand back far enough so that you're not killed by the explosion damage, and what will happen is that explosion damage alone will be enough to kill all of those fishes, having them all drop the Wither Roses, and you'll notice on the ground here we have a mass amount of the Wither Roses, so although the Wither fight is very dangerous regardless of what you do, I found that placing down a massive amount of the tropical fish buckets can be an easy way to get yourself stacks and stacks of Wither Roses. Nether bases are great, and respawn anchors are great, but there is one problem with the respawn anchor. In fact, that problem is even in the advancement you get from the respawn anchor, not quite 9 lives. You see, the problem is once the respawn anchor runs out of charge, unless every single time you respawn you right click on it, it'll eventually run out of charge and you will not be able to respawn there anymore. However, you can very easily fix this by simply having a dispenser face into any single side of the respawn anchor, then having an observer face away from the dispenser, having an observer face that observer, which will make an observer clock, and then filling that dispenser up with glowstone. What will happen is the glowstone will not go anywhere, it will not dispense into the air, it will not go into that respawn anchor unless its charge is lost. And so for instance, upon putting down this respawn anchor, you can see that it's charged up, We can have our spawn point set here, and every single time we respawn, our spawn point will still be there, and the dispenser will still be there to charge the respawn anchor. If we grab a sea pickle from the warm ocean or coral reef, and place it down on some sand to bone meal that, well, nothing will happen. We'll actually get this little particle, but nothing will happen to this sea pickle, it'll just waste our bone meal. However, if we get some coral blocks of any type and place them down in a decent radius around where that sea pickle will be, and my personal favorite thing to do is to mark out the middle coral block with a different color, then we put the sea pickle there and we bone meal it, those sea pickles will actually spread, and if we spam right click, they will just spread more and more. Then we can break the sea pickles that are outside of that main one, bone meal it again, and grow ourselves tons and tons of sea pickles with really minimal bone meal use. Considering that each bone meal can give us tons and tons of sea pickles, not just one more, you can get as many of this pickly plant as you want with just a bit of bone meal if you can lay out some coral like this. What are some of your survival Minecraft tips and tricks? Be sure to leave them in the comments below to share with others. If you're in late game Minecraft, have the Elytra and a healthy supply of firework rockets. This is a tip that I use almost every single day that I play survival Minecraft, and that is flying away with Elytra to despawn mobs. Notice all the mobs down here. If we fly up into the air so that we're about 120 blocks away at a certain height, all those mobs will simply vanish. And if we go back down here, the new mobs that spawn in will be entirely different mobs. This doesn't sound super useful, but it is considering the fact that this also works in the nether fortresses, this works in the end dimension, this works in every single part of the game that has hostile mobs that spawn in and despawn. Because of the fact that hostile mobs cannot exist more than 120 blocks away from the player, simply getting outside of that range, then going back inside of that range, you can force the game to generate in a very large amount of hostile mobs. Now you probably know that leather boots will make you immune to powder snow, as you're sort of snowshoeing across the surface. But a better question might be, considering the fact that you do not want to be wearing leather boots every single time you're playing around a mountain, how do we tell what powder snow is versus standard snow? When it generates in, the first big clue is the fact that there is no snow layers on top of it. So you'll notice here there is this very slight change in the elevation from the standard snow to the powder snow. As well as that, shadows work a bit differently on there. You'll notice if you look at the shadows here, they sort of go very dark in the edges here and are light at the corners, whereas over here it's basically just dark on one side and light on the other side. If you take a snow layer and try and place it on top of the powder snow, it will not work. Also, in terms of the texture, the standard snow texture is very smoothed out, whereas the powder snow texture has these small independent pixels in it, which makes it a bit more sharp looking. Great test if you have a bucket with you is to simply right click, and if you can pick it up, that's powdered snow. If you cannot pick it up, then that is not powder snow. There are two types of fire in Minecraft. There is the standard fire and there is soul fire. Standard fire is when literally anything is lit on fire, except for two things, which is soul sand and soul soil. You can notice here both of these materials will give us the blue fire, but what's more interesting than just the blue fire, which you probably know about, is the fact that blue fire is actually 2 times deadlier than standard fire. So for instance, if a piglin dies in the soul fire, you can notice that's quite quick. But if they die in the standard fire, it takes much longer for that to happen. In fact, it takes twice as long for that to happen. And this is important to know because let's say you're building a farm that has a campfire in it to kill hostile mobs or really anything, then you can use that as it is 2 times deadlier. For instance, look at my death speed here. We're losing about half a heart every time we're hurt, whereas here we are losing a whole heart every single time we're hurt. A lot of players like to throw away items that they don't want. And so something you can do if you want to make this a bit more streamlined is to place down a cactus, get yourself some paintings and place them on every single side of the cactus. The idea would be if these are placed correctly, they can often look somewhat like a garbage can or the contents of a garbage can. So that looks somewhat like garbage can contents of maybe a clear garbage disposal. Then if we put a birch trapdoor on top, we have a working garbage can, where if we have the items on top there normally, they will not be destroyed, but if we open up the trapdoor and throw our items, they will be destroyed. So if we throw items inside of the the trash can, we can have this working little trash disposal system inside of Minecraft that is incredibly compact and does not require any redstone and can really be built at any stage of the game that you want. If you sometimes have trouble landing with Elytra and you just want to have a fun Elytra landing pad, try making a giant tennis racket with cobwebs to be the string, and it actually works incredibly effectively as a method of stopping your Elytra flight, because once you go inside of the cobwebs you're instantly stopped. Then you can go down from there, and of course you could make a fun shape like this that will stop you right in your tracks instantly, but something you could also do if you want to is just use one block like this. So if we fly right into this cobweb on the ground, you can see it stopped us right there in our tracks, which is incredibly useful considering the fact that sometimes even if you do land somewhat correctly with Elytra, you can still get a bit of fall damage there. And I find it very funny that something as cartoonish as a giant tennis racket actually does work at stopping your Elytra flight. So you've arrived at the Minecraft Stone Age and you have your old wooden tools that you do not need anymore. Well, you could always throw them away, or you could use them as fuel. In fact, this works with basically everything that you think it would. As a general rule, if you think it would work as fuel, it probably does work as fuel. Things like carpets, slabs, scaffolding, bamboo, really anything that would burn in real life will likely work as furnace fuel inside of Minecraft. And so with things like your old tools, or maybe some useless plants you never use, or some sticks, or even dried kelp blocks, using unconventional fuels is really the best way of saving time if you need fuel in a pinch, and not having to go find yourself some coal blocks that may or may not be in sight. Now of course we all know that bees in Minecraft can pollinate flowers, but they can pollinate a couple things that aren't exactly flowers. In fact, I recently did a community post poll where I asked which one of these things can bees not pollinate, and the vast majority of you got it incorrect, and so I will show you now. The sweet berries in Java Edition the bees can pollinate, although I believe they have to be fully grown for that to work effectively. Also the flowering azalea the bees can pollinate, and you can even breed bees with the flowering azalea. However, something very strange is if you take any one tall flower, like let's say these tulips here, and we plant them inside of the flower pot, those tulips will not be able to be pollinated by the bees. And as probably one of the shockingest twists of all, the mangrove propagule of all things is also something that the bees will find as a breedable food as well as something they can pollinate. Now oftentimes when you first get diamonds in Minecraft, you will instantly craft them into tools, armor, and weapons. And although you can do this at first, eventually the best idea is to trade with toolsmiths, weaponsmiths, and armorers. That's because between them, every single craftable diamond item that is a tool or a piece of armor is obtainable, and not just as is, but even with enchantments. So for instance right here, for 17 emeralds, we have an Unbreaking 2, Efficiency 2 pickaxe. With only a couple zombifications, you can have this down to literally 1 emerald for 1 tool. I actually talk more about these OP diamond traders in my villager trading guide, and I will have an iCard on the screen right now if you want to learn more about the best way to get diamond tools and diamond armor using only villager trades, where effectively you can turn a singular piece of stone, so basically free, into unlimited enchanted diamond tools. Now of course one of the best things about the end ship is the Elytra, but there's something that's also quite good and rare that people often leave here, and that is the dragon head at the front of the ship. There are 2 very distinct and interesting uses that you can have with this dragon head item. So for instance, if you have it on your head, you can actually see that a full-size dragon head, and also if you walk with this dragon head, as you walk the mouth of the dragon will move, which is very funny as you can sort of make it look like you're talking or eating as you're walking. If you place the dragon head down on a block, you can see it just sits there. However, with a lever on the side of it, if we power this block on, the dragon's face will animate and its mouth will move, and this also works if you place it on a block of redstone. You could even pause it at particular parts of the animation if you wanted. Fighting mobs in Minecraft can certainly be hard, but 100% the biggest tip I would give is to use boats, as boats are an OP way of getting any mob you want instantly captured, with basically nothing they can do about it either. If you want to, let's say, capture this creeper and a husk together, or maybe have this skeleton be stuck right here. Now, although it does not work on mobs like spiders, with things like this duo of creepers, A deadly situation is turned into a comical one, where we can very easily capture them in this boat with absolutely no issue. Just be aware this does not get rid of the explosive power of the creepers. The cauldron is a very interesting item in Minecraft with a lot of uses to it, but probably the most overlooked use is to collect powder snow and also rainwater. If we place down a bunch of cauldrons around here, some of them in the snow area and some of them in the water area, eventually over time these will start to fill up with powder snow as well as water. And I really like this mechanic, as of course in real life, if you have a bucket outside during the rain, it will slowly fill up with water, and the same would be true with something to fill up with snow. Powder snow is found in a lot of places, but most of them are actually not the main places where it snows. So for instance, the snowy taiga or the snowy plains, if you're in this biome and want yourself a good source of powder snow, simply place down a whole bunch of cauldrons, let it snow a couple times, and eventually they'll all be filled up with powder snow without any need of going to, let's say, the snowy slopes biome. If you found a villager that you really like, then you can always protect that by giving it invisible armor. If you place down a dispenser facing that villager and fill it up with some good quality armor, and of course long term once you have those villagers that I was talking about earlier, which can provide you with infinite basically free diamond armor that's even enchanted, then simply place those in the dispenser and right click. You'll think nothing's happening, but you do hear that equipping sound and eventually it's empty. We see no armor on the ground, so it definitely went somewhere, and it actually went to this villager. And we can prove this, as generally a critical hit with an axe would kill a villager. You can see here, even with 2 hits, this villager does not die. It is definitely receiving the effects of that diamond armor. And so although you'd never want to do this in the zombification process, once you've fully zombified your villager, having this diamond armor on it is the perfect way to protect it forever. Something that can definitely come in handy sometimes as a very niche use of the door is that a door can actually be a ladder. If we place down a door and we go into the place where the door would appear when we open it up like this, we're now inside the door. And we can simply jump up once to then be halfway through the door, jump up again to be on top of the door, and now we've just gone up 2 blocks without actually placing anything down that we could technically go on top of. You could even use this rarely known feature to hide a secret. Let's say you have your normal door into your house, and no one would really notice anything strange when going in and out of it, but you know, so you go to where the door is, you open it up, then you jump up the door. Now you're in a secret area. You can grab your treasure outside of this chest, go back down there, and no one will be the wiser. And there's no way to get up here except for by using this interesting door trick. Biomes predict a lot in Minecraft, from how mobs will spawn to what can generate, even up to what ores you can find in that area. But especially in terms of mobs generation, it's often important to know what features are found in which areas. And so something you can do to really find easily the specific biome borders of something, as they are not chunk based and can be very difficult to actually locate. All you have to do is go to your options menu, go to your video settings, and turn biome blend all the way down or basically off. And once you've done that, you can see the exact borders between the biomes. So for instance, you can see this dark area here is of course the swamp, and it comes over here. This is definitely incredibly ugly. However, if using it to locate biome borders, it's really vital. So for instance, here we can see standard water, that's obviously not the swamp, but here is the brown swamp water, so that is the swamp. So you have survived to the end. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!